Hello friends and enemies, welcome to or back to Happy For Now. It's me, Isabel, here with my top reads of 2023. How are we here? This is, I don't know. This still feels weird to be like filming, thinking about. I feel like it took me a while to come up with my list. And I'm going to caveat this. We're in two sections. We'll have our romance section with my 12 favorite romances of 2023 and my other section, which is only going to feature a couple books. But it's all going to be my non-romance genre items that I loved this year. I think I need to keep more of a running list in the future to make this easier because, oh my goodness, I was just like scrolling everything I read, like what was my favorite? I read that this year. That's what happens when you read a lot, and we'll talk about that in my stats video. Obviously, in my stats video, we'll dive into all that info, which that'll be the next one, and then we'll talk manga. So it's all coming here very soon. Either way, I'm excited to dive in and talk about these books. I actually have physicals of quite a few of them, which is also like kind of thrilling. I don't always buy all of my favorites. I do try to keep my shelves pretty loaded with things I love, but they also need a purge again, so that's happening soon. But yeah, let's dive in. This list is going to be in no particular order, okay? Like that's the first thing I need to caveat. These are just the 12 books that I really loved in 2023. I'm not doing like this was my top favorite. Like, no, I do not have the brain power to do that, nor the ability to sort these books in that fashion. So we're just going to dive in. They're kind of in order from when I read them, so that is kind of interesting. First things first, we have A Soul to Keep by Opal Rain. This was a delightful surprise for me. I bet he read this with Shay over at Shay Geeks Out, and I'm so glad we read this. I loved this book. This kind of, I'm always going to be a monster girly, but this like really reignited my love of monster books and what I'm looking for when I read them, because this felt like such a beautiful mixture of paranormal world and like interesting fantasy-ish world building almost, and interesting monsters, like just very different and unique from a lot of the monster books that we get. I also just have a deep respect for Opal Rain's handling of the Duskwalkers and ensuring people are not like taking from indigenous cultures to talk about them and things like that. Like I really, really appreciate that. I also just think overall, this is one of those books that just hits me good, right in what I want. Like someone who is teaching, like learning from each other about each other's world, starting to understand things better. I think the magic in this and like the world building and everything made sense like so well. But we also just had really fun moments between the two of them because of the fact that they like didn't fully understand each other. But yeah, I love a good sacrifice to the monster turned romantic relationship at the end of the day. And I think it was just a really solid introduction to the world, even though I didn't like book 2 that much and I have softy enough'd it. But I still feel like I will probably at one point get the audiobook and like revisit this. Like this is a book I can see myself rereading. That's how much I loved it. And I feel like as not a big rereader, that says a lot about a book. But yeah, I also think this one for me, Orpheus, our Duskwalker hero, is like desperate for companionship, and I think there's parts of that are just so hard to read, but also really, really like just they punch you right in the chest while you're reading it, because you just like your heart breaks for him. He wants to be friends, he wants a companion, he wants someone to like live life with, and isn't that just like one of the most human things ever in a weird way, even though he's this monster? I don't know, I think it is, but I absolutely loved this book. Let's see. Next, we have Real by Kennedy Ryan. It is on my top shelf, and I decided not to get the stepladder out. Also, it's cold, so like I didn't want to put my feet on the cold metal. No. Anyways, I decided not to get the stepladder out, so we're doing an image here. So Real by Kennedy Ryan was something I read early in the year as well. And honestly, like I always love a Kennedy Ryan book. I do want to work through more of her backlist in 2024, but also like I want to read other authors too, because I feel like Kennedy, rightfully so, gets a lot of admiration and press from other people. I don't need to be another one of her cheerleaders, but Real for me, oh, that was an emotional and a gut punch of a book in a way I wasn't fully expecting, but was also expecting because it's Kennedy. Like Kennedy Ryan, I know when I read a Kennedy Ryan, it's gonna give me that like punch. But I think this one, for me, the biggest surprise was how well I felt like she communicated things around chronic illnesses from all of my friends that have chronic illnesses, and reading that and just like really feeling it inside of me. Like, I don't know, it raised the empathy I had already found myself having towards my friends. And I think also just the way their romance unfolded was very sweet and precious. And the audiobook narration on this one is freaking bomb also. So that also helps, I think. I highly recommend listening to it via audio if you are going to read this story. But I mean, I'm ready for the next book in this little like Hollywood Renaissance series she's doing. I am ecstatic for it because I really think this book just like blew me away in ways I wasn't expecting, and yet again also kind of expect, because Kennedy Ryan almost never lets me down when I do read her. So unsurprising it's here. It was so good, y'all. All right, next we have one of like 3 why chooses on this list because I've been having a moment with them and I'm enjoying them. And that is Syndicate of Sin. This is a dark mafia type romance. We do have different kinds of gangs represented here, you know, including Yakuza and Irish mob and all that fun stuff. I enjoyed this a lot more than I expected to, and it's actually like the second book in the series, and I still need to read book 1, which has happened. I personally really enjoyed this because I felt like we had a really badass heroine who was not going to take shit from anybody, including her family that were kind of being real shit to her. And lo and behold, to piss the family off, the head of the like guy group of friends, which they call themselves the Syndicate of Sin, decides that he is going to marry her instead of her sister. And we follow their like very antagonistic relationship. This is one of those books that's either like super duper gonna work for you or you are not gonna have a good time. And that's okay. Like, this is very like specific to kind of why choose and dark romance mafia type reader, in my opinion, and I am the target audience, okay? Like, I am the target audience. I can tell you that right now. And that's not a bad thing by any means to be the target audience for it, but it's one that I would say, like, proceed with caution. If the things I'm saying, like, resonate and you're like, yes, then do read it. But it does have things like gunplay and knife play and, you know, a lot of dubious consent, to say the least. I personally just, like, I don't know, I blew through this book. I had a blast reading it. I loved our heroine. I loved all of our love interests. And I'm really excited to honestly read book 1 this year and then possibly reread book 2 and then read book 3 when that comes out. Like, I can see myself like going through this entire series again because it just was so much fun. I really just enjoyed the fact that the guys all wanted to like kind of stick it to their dads and their families for specific different reasons. You know, again, it had the mix of all the vibes you want from these kinds of books. Touch her and you die. You know, oh, I don't like you, but I do like you. Like, kind of enemy situation. Delightful. Okay, next we have another one that I actually have an arc of, and I have my physical. I pulled my arc down. That is Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. Yes, this is formerly Raylo fic. It's so good. I like a former Raylo fic. We've established that before. This is not news that I enjoy these, but Forget Me Not was so freaking good. Oh my goodness, it was so freaking good. Oh, my Post-it's still in here from getting it signed. Hold on. I read this pretty early in the year because I got an arc of it, and I got an audiobook arc from Libro.fm. So like, I devoured this book, and I still think about this book. I loved the way this was told. So we have 2 timelines happening. We have the present and the past. Present is told by Emma, our heroine's perspective, and the past is all in Elliot's perspective. And I think that marriage of the 2 timelines, like of what he remembers and her kind of reminiscing on it in current day, is like really well done. I really loved how that played out. She's a wedding planner. He is, of course, a like renowned florist, go figure, with like tattoos all over, including a tattoo of the flower she's named for and the fact that he will no longer style that flower in arrangements. Oh my god, it's so good. This is like very pining and it's very much the opposite of the other book of Syndicate of Sin, but it's so good. And yeah, so basically they kind of have to work together to plan this wedding that's kind of going to kickstart her big business and help his business at the end of the day for a socialite, social media person and her future wife. I went into this not knowing if I'd love it. Weddings aren't usually a thing I care to read about. I'm really indifferent on. And I left this book just like astounded at how freaking good it is. And I cannot wait to see what else Julie Soto writes for us because this was so good. And it's proof that people want to talk shit on fanfic writers and fanfic people, but sometimes they freaking deliver. And this is one of those situations in which they really do deliver. Okay, these 2 I'm tying together because I didn't want to be like this entire series. So I picked out my 2 favorites, I think, from this series for the most part. And of course this is hockey because I have been in my hockey moment extensively in the last year and I continue to be. And that is Blind Pass by Tegan Hunter and The Neutral Zone by Tegan Hunter. Blind Pass features some of my favorite things, including we got married in Vegas one night as somebody who got married in Vegas. Not like that, but still, I did have a Vegas wedding and it's the best. I highly recommend everyone just get married in Vegas and not do the whole shebang. Anyways, he has like a huge scar across his face. He's very grumpy. She is a struggling social media influencer and artist, and we follow their journey together. They're going to stay married for a year for the good press, and it is so good. And the ways she unravels him, she peels that man apart and like breaks him down to help him rebuild in the most beautiful ways. Oh my gosh, I love this freaking book. And I do plan on like rereading it and highlighting it and stuff because that's how much I love this book. Ryan and Rhodes are a fantastic pairing, and truly, like, as I read through this series, like, it's hard for me to pick a favorite, but this is definitely one that stands out in my mind every time. I'm a sucker for Feeding the Beast. I'm a sucker for a Vegas marriage. I'm a sucker for oops, we got married. And on top of that, just the way she unravels him for me was everything. Everything. Okay, next we have the one that I feel like, I don't know, it's just so good. It's so interesting, and that's The Neutral Zone. I have some quibbles with it, but I'm still going to highlight it as a favorite in this series because, I mean, they're all fun. Like, these are all fun in this entire series. But this follows Ivan Fitzgerald, our star hockey player, and Rosie, who just started working at the little food truck thing outside the building. Or not building, but not far from them. And she is one of their bakers and like makes the different things, and he comes and like flirts with her every day, but he also talks to this person online in a private chat situation, sort of like webcam girl thing, and he realizes at some point that it's Rosie, and she doesn't know it's him, and they're having like private chats off to the side. So the issue here, obviously, for some of this is like that reveal is a little bit messy, I'm not gonna lie, but I just loved the way that Ivan, who is like the star player, is like super introverted, kind of doesn't want to do things with everyone, doesn't want to be like seen like that, except for his cat, who is hilarious. I love the cat in this book. But also, like, he cares a lot about his people and his friends and his hockey family. This just worked really well for me. This was I think this is the first one I read in the series, possibly. I'm not sure. I read this one early. Either way, I really loved this one. I love the special edition cover too. It's so cute with all the bakery goods. But I just think it was really fun to have such a different pairing and such a different setup. I don't feel like this is a setup we often see in our sports romances, nor do we really usually get such sweet and introverted sports romance heroes. Not to say, again, that he can't be like mean if he needed to be. He's a hockey player. But like, he's just very kind in a way that was really delightful to read. And yeah, I love this series immensely, and I'm excited to read more from Tegan Hunter this year. So we'll see how that goes. So I got gifted this copy and ow, this copy of this book, which is Only for the Weak by Natasha Bishop. This is one of my favorites of the year. I don't think I've shut up about this book since I read it. I've been telling people to read it. I just don't think you can go wrong. Yes, it's a stunning cover. That is part of what got me to read it, but I also just watched everyone rave about Rome, our hero in this book, and I was like, there's no way. And then I read the book, and I was like, yes, we are all fighting for Rome. It's fine. Ow. It's fine. We're all fighting for him. Because Rome is a spectacular hero. This is such a interesting book because we have a very messy side plot happening around her sister's wedding to her former ex. And then Janelle, our heroine, I'm like trying to hold two books up. Anyways, our heroine Janelle is having to attend her sister's wedding to her ex. And they didn't date very long, but everyone's very like worked up about the fact that they're exes and very like concerned in weird ways. And they're spending a week before the wedding in Tulum, which is also in Tulum. Like they're spending 2 weeks in Tulum. And her ex's best friend Rome, of course, is there. And he's like, hey, just for the week, let me be your stress ball. And just, boy, does he relieve some stress. But also, on top of that, he, like one of my favorite scenes is when he rents this boat so she can read on the water all day, and then he picks up her romance books and reads them too. Like, it's so sweet. But he also is, like, very defensive of her and, like, defends her when Arnold does some dumb shit and her family does dumb shit. He's like, no, don't tolerate that. And it worked so well for me. And I was so nervous. I was like, I don't want to hate this book. A lot of people I like and opinions I trust love this book. I really hope I love this book. And then I was like, oh, I love this book. I love this book. So here I am, like, thriving with this book. Oh my God. If you haven't read Only for the Week and anything I'm saying appeals to you, I really cannot recommend you picking it up ASAP. Like, as soon as you possibly can, go get this book because you are not going to be disappointed. It's so good. If you if it doesn't appeal to you, obviously don't, but I'm obsessed with this. One of my all-time favorites, for sure. I feel like Only for the Week as a book I would put on like my favorites of the last 5 years, so that's saying a lot. This is another one that a lot of other people I know are gonna have on their favorites list, and I don't know. There's so much about this one. Oh my god, I just noticed. Okay. Anyways, there's so much about this one that just, I can't get enough. And I'm so excited to read more from this author, and that is Role Playing by Kathy Yardley. I was so sad because she dropped out of Steamy Lit, and I was really, really excited to meet her. Some of the ways that this one is like important to me, I guess, let's talk about. I really enjoyed the exploration of queer identities as older adults, because I often feel like we think this idea of like queer identity and discovery is so a young person's game, and it's not. You can always find out something new. You can always discover new things, right? And I loved the discussion of demisexuality in here so much, and I think it was really powerful, and I think it was really good to read, and it's brought up a lot of fun conversations when I talk about this book with people, because not everybody knows about being demi. And I think that's really fun to be able to be like, oh yeah, this is a thing. And they're like, oh my god, I had no idea. And lo and behold, they discover something new about themselves sometimes. But Maggie, our 48-year-old heroine, is very grumpy, and I love that about her as well. She is divorced, and her son is going off to college, and he's worried about her being home alone and not having things to do besides play her online MMORPG, which, another soft spot in my heart. I've talked about it before. I love WoW. Was an avid WoW player for a very long time. Kind of had to cut myself off because it gets a bit of an addiction for me. She joins an online gaming crew, and lo and behold, her username's Bogwitch, and he is Otter, and she meets Otter, and they spend a lot of time together playing the game. And what do you know? Otter lives down the road from her. I know. Who would have guessed? They both make assumptions about how old the other one is, so like she thinks Otter is like at least as young as 20, if not younger. And then he has assumed that she's like an octogenarian. So when they finally meet, it's like, wait, what? We're really close in age, because he's like 50. And it is just so fun to read about two older people falling in love. And like, I think it's as like you get into your 30s, you'll notice this too. I just think it was refreshing. Their problems are the same but different than when you're 20, and it's definitely a lot less dramatic. But I also really enjoyed how much Maggie fights for Aiden, Otter, in this book. There is some moments near the end of the book that she is just not going to sit down and allow it. And we also have a bisexual hero, or pansexual, and there some of the fight is around that, and she's just like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I love it. Like, I just love so much of this. I feel like the identities in this book were so well done and so refreshing, because again, I don't know how often I've read a book with characters this age that are discovering things around their sexual identities and different things, you know? Like, I just don't think it happens enough, and I get so sad to think that so many people think like, oh, well, I'm just this, like, it's not gonna change, it's been, you know, I'm no longer a kid. And I just want to be like, but it can, and you can learn more. You can find something that fits better. You know, the thing that you think is so weird or different often is the thing that a lot of other people are experiencing. And I just want more of that in the world. But I love role playing so much. It is going to be one of those books, again, that I can see myself revisit. All of these, I feel like, are books I can see myself revisiting. But a book that I just think does so much. And it's a slow burn, and I loved it. So I don't know what that says, but I really did enjoy how much of a slow burn this was. It did kind of work for me at the end of the day for how slow it was. But yeah, I can't recommend role playing enough. If you somehow haven't read this yet, like, you need to get on it. All right, next is The Beasts of the Briar series, one of my other white shoes that I am obsessed with. I went into this from a TikTok rack not expecting to love it. Okay, like, listen, I always get nervous, but another one I got Shay to buddy read with me, and I'm so glad we did. I cannot wait. We're gonna finish Forged by Malice this month in January, but we read the first two books in the series in 2023. And this is a portal fantasy, kind of, I guess, technically. She travels into the Fae world with our princes of the Fae courts, our seasonal courts, right? And they're in this castle that's crumbling and having these issues, and she is, well, we find out she's one of their fated mates. But more than likely, we all know that, like, she's gonna end up with all of them. It's a white shoes fantasy fairy, like Beauty and the Beast inspired, like takes a lot of the fake, like it's taking so much of things that I love and just mixing them in a big pot, and I love it so much for that. But yeah, I was so surprised at how much I liked this. I think the world building was really well done, and it's going to be a longer series, which is fine by me because honestly I could just keep reading these for a while. But also I felt like diving into this, we had like really good establishment as to why she was like not stunned when she ended up here almost. Because her mom had vanished, and I'm really curious for that element to come into play here. I feel like that's coming eventually here, her mom showing back up or something. But yeah, the Fae Princess have kind of been cursed, and she's helping them figure out that curse and learning so much, and they're all like very different and unique humans. Like if I didn't have chapter headers with who the chapter was, I still think I would be able to identify who it was. Which I think is really important when you're writing a Why Choose, right? I don't want to read the same variation of a guy 4 times over if they're all getting POVs, you know? Like, I need to know who's who. But yeah, I love this book. I love this series so far, and I am beyond ecstatic for more. I honestly, it's too good. Like, it's so good. And it's got a nice build up. Like, every, like, scene has had such good build up and, like, just some really hot moments in the book. So yeah. I can't recommend it enough. Next, we have The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. This was in my cozy vlog, and I have still thought about this book. I think this book for me kind of encompasses the thing I want out of my cozies more often than not, which not easy to do. I'm picky. I'm very picky about my cozies. So I really appreciate the fact that this encompasses so much of that. I think this had a wonderful found family element. I think this had a fun discovery element around like identity and stuff, a really fun romance as well, and meddling from the other people in the book to like get them to get together, as well as like really fun characters of kids who are learning about their magic skills. Okay, let's jump right back to the last Why Choose, and I don't think this is going to be a surprise. I know this is a book not everybody loves, and I know like after the Kiera Lewis thing, it's a hard book to be like, yeah, totes, but it's got to be Pucking Around. This is a book that ignited my hockey moment even more than it had been, and I'm still rereading it from last year. But as I reread this one, I am really enjoying it and continuing to just be like, yeah, this is just one of those books for me. Like, it has just kind of imprinted on my brain. And again, same thing here where I feel like each of our love interests is very unique on the page. I don't need a title header to know who's talking, who I'm reading from. I really just love so much of this. I love the world being built here. I also really enjoy the fact that this whole series, we have like various pairings. And say what you will, I just don't think we get enough of that anymore. You know, we don't often get books that feature polyamorous relationships, you know, and then the next book's just a regular couple, and then the next book's like a throuple. Like, I want more of that. I love that so much. And I think for me, that's part of why I love this so much too, is that it just kind of gave me a lot of feelings. Listen, there are issues. I'm not going to say they're not, but like overall, like one of the things I will look back on in 2023 is that was the year I read Pucking Around and fell in love with a Why Choose hockey book that I never expected to like, that I never expected to read in 2 days and devour, to reread in the same freaking year. Almost. I've read most of it. But yeah, it's just not the book I would have expected that to happen with. And here I am, obsessed with it still. And honestly, like, I still haven't read Pucking Wild because I'm like kind of holding it off for reasons. But yeah, like, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I just think it was so fun. Again, some of the work stuff, yeah, very silly. But like, it's just been such a fun read, and I love the boys in this book, and I like Rachel too. I like all of them. I just think it's a fun time at the end of the day for me. Next, we have another one that I didn't think I would like as much as I did. And I liked it so much I bought a special edition at Steamy Lit. So that is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I just did not expect to like this as much as I did. I don't know why. So we have like a high power doctor lady who's like very high stress, and this guy who's kind of down on his luck and struggling, the mayor of the town, he saves her out of a ditch, and then they kind of end up reconnecting slowly over time, and it's just really sweet. I think the like rep for mental health in this book and other things make it so worth it. I also really enjoyed the older woman, younger man element of this. I think it was fun to read that from a honestly very popular book. I don't feel like I get a lot of older woman, younger man from popular titles. But I just love how she doesn't want the things her family wants from her, who's like a prestigious medical family. I guess that's the thing. I don't know. And the more time she spends with him, the more she realizes she doesn't want that. And it helps shape her choices. And I really just loved that element. And then we have to like save the house he lives in, kind of, which is really fun. And he's a carpenter. It's a very like small town, big city girl meets small town hero. But also there's a goat and a cute dog. So what more do you want? Okay. I don't know. This book for me really delivered in a way, again, I didn't expect. Like, a lot of people I know loved it, but every time a lot of people I know love a book, I'm like, I'm not gonna like that. I'm gonna be the one who hates it. And then lo and behold, I sometimes love that book. Not always. And then last but not least, we have the last hockey book I read in 2023, Collide. This book surprised me. I didn't think it would be a favorite of the year, but this is also why I never cut off my reading. Because the more I've thought about this book, the more I'm like, no, this is on your favorites list. So, Collide is another hockey romance. This is about a girl who's applying to like a master's program, PhD program, thingamabob. I think it's master's. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't pay that close of attention to that kind of detail. And he is a hockey player who takes the fall for the team's error. They make a big mistake. They kind of trash campus. So he has to participate in her study project. And it follows their very like funny relationship because she does not like him. She hates hockey. And we follow them slowly falling in love and her like falling, not in love with the team, but like finding a found family within the team, which is really cute. And like his house, which is a bunch of players. And there's reasons she doesn't like hockey, and those reveals like make a lot of sense and are really cute. We also have a hero here who like stands up to her dad, even though he's maybe somebody really important. And I enjoyed that aspect of it so much. He really was like, absolutely not, you're not gonna run her over. And I think this just had like all the things I want when I read a new adult, you know, like college hockey romance. It was so freaking cute. It was so cute and sweet. And I just really adored them as a couple. I think this was one of those ones, like I said, for me, it was a better icebreaker, a better version of The Deal from Elle Kennedy. Like overall, just a better book. I think the plot and everything was a lot more fleshed out and enjoyable to read overall. So yeah, I think this is like absolutely fantastic. I cannot believe I read it right at the end of the year and loved it as much as I did. So I'm just happy I did and I can put it on this list because I would have been sad if I was like, oh no, I need to hold on to this for a while. But yeah, Collide was fantastic. Another high in my hockey reading that has been the last year. But those are my favorite romances. Let's talk about my top 3 non-romances I read in 2023. It's not a big list because honestly, I didn't read a lot of non-romances in 2023, which is a weird thought, but it is what it is. I'm hoping to read more in 2024, obviously. But first up, we have Their Vicious Games by Joelle Wellington. I will never shut up about this book. Personally, this was just such an interesting setup that delivered so well for me that I cannot believe how much I loved it and how good it was. This is The Bachelor meets Squid Games, or like Hunted kind of situation, like a hunting people situation. We follow our heroine who has lost her chance to go to the prestigious Ivy League school she wanted to attend. And she also attends a really fancy school for rich kids. And basically like she misstepped with somebody and they got her acceptance taken away. So she enters this game with this family that is deadly on the years that the boys are going to marry the winner. It's still deadly on the non-years, like the non-marriage years, but yeah. So she enters this game with a bunch of other girls she goes to school with and knows, and some she doesn't. And it's them all fighting to the death, basically, to win the hand of marriage of this guy. And it just showcases how evil so many people can be just to get what they want, but also how sometimes you can persevere and make it through things. And I just like, I feel like this is a book I started and could not put down because I had to know where it was going. I had to know how it ended. I had to know. Like, I just had to know everything. So if you're looking for that thriller, thriller kind of horror mashup and you haven't read Their Vicious Games, I don't know what you're doing yet again. Pick this dang book up. It's so good. Next, we have Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. I really enjoyed For Aunties and a Wedding. Whatever the first one in her one series was. I need to finish that series in 2024. But I picked this up on a whim because I just thought it sounded so funny. This is the epitome of like old woman makes a found family situation and also repairs her relationship with her son. This follows Vera Wong, who runs a tea shop. Her name's Vera Wong, and she runs a tea shop not called like Vera Wang's Tea Shop or something. Comes in one morning, there's a dead body. She's like tracing an outline of it to help the police. They're like, what are you doing? And she decides she's gonna solve this murder that happened in her store and goes on this quest with like all these people and all these things to solve this murder. I had so much fun listening to this. I was giggling and just so amused. This is like the perfect cozy mystery sort of situation. And it was just so much better than I expected it to be. I was just surprised at how much I enjoyed it. I'm like kind of dabbling more and more into some cozies, so I felt like this was a good bet for me, and honestly not disappointed. It definitely has that like very funny humor element to it, so like if that's your thing, like me, if you like those, I think this is a great option. And it just was so much fun. Like it just truly was so much fun to read. And then last but not least, we have The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. I read this right at the end of the year, and I'm so glad I did. I do think it deserved to win memoir for Goodreads, and I'm so glad I did also. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I wrote one for memoir. I really, really enjoyed this one. I think it was such a fun read. I think it was really fun to hear Britney's story from her side, because we've gotten so much information from other people in her life, but not as much directly from her. So I think that element of this was just spectacular. And this is another one where I think the narration on the audiobook does a world of wonders, because Michelle Williams narrates it and she does fantastic. Also, like, fuck Justin Timberlake. Like, screw him big time, you know? But I really enjoyed this way more than I thought I would. I thought I was going to leave it a little more, like, indifferent, but I just kind of left it really sad for how shitty the world has been to Britney. So there's that. Those are my top 15 total books for 2023. Let me know your favorite reads of 2023 in the comments. I would love to know. Maybe I'll read them. Who knows? Maybe I did read them. But I would love to know those in the comments. And if you don't want to do that, leave me a like gold star emoji, something like that, because, you know, these were favorites. So gold stars, right? That counts. That makes sense. Anyways, I'll have links to all these books for you down below, as well as links to be my friend anywhere on the internet that I am. And I will talk to y'all in just a few days. Bye.
About to leave. Already packing, come with me. I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be. Life with no distractions. We'll get